Thanks everyone for coming today and participating in this first session. Great to have my colleague Nketi Johnson Taylor on the line. And so for those of you who don't know, there's been a change of guard in CRIEC in the city of Calgary for the Calgary Region Immigrant Employment Council. And Nketi's my welcome colleague and now my new partner in crime here in Alberta. And then of course we have Najib Mangal from Lethbridge and Sarah Tangan, who's our mentorship director here today as the team that we've pulled together for you all. So you've got some great expertise sitting around the table, and we're going to, just to give you a little bit of background on how we're going to approach this, we'll have the two presentations. We'll start with the ERIEC presentation, and then we'll go to Najib's presentation, Lethbridge. What you'll see in the two presentations is an urban experience and of an organization like ERIEC and CRIEC who have run mentorship programs for almost 14 years. So, which is really where all the best practice content comes from between the two organizations and has been distilled and put onto the AMP website. And Najib, as well as a benefactor from our original project a few years ago, there were two pilot communities that ran during our first foray into rural mentorship and building the AMP website. And Najib has got some very, sort of pragmatic, sort of rural, small center-based experiences to share with you this morning. And I think to me, that's going to be really valuable because they've, in a sense, they had a previous experience in start in mentorship and in one sort of iteration, and now they've moved into sort of an employment-related and themed sort of mentorship program in Lethbridge. So really excited to hear about Najib's experiences and what he has to share with you all this morning. So as you can see, this is our agenda. So our topic today is recruiting and retaining mentors. And then, so we'll have probably about a half an hour, 40 minutes of presentation, and then we'll have a peer sharing opportunity for you all. So the floor will be open for question and answers. And I think this is where we really excel is when people ask us questions. And typically in the boot camps we ran in the past, we do have our presentations, but where we really get some great information and two-way conversations is through the question and answer. And then if there's time and if people are interested, we really like the idea of creating a community of practice. And so here's an opportunity, the networking side. I know it's Friday and you're probably going, this is enough in itself in terms of just participating in a workshop on a Friday morning. But we did want to make build some capacity for some casual networking or any other questions, because I think that, and as Nketi can vouch for, and now Najib and others who are really starting to get into the mentorship, programming, I think that this is a great opportunity for everybody to share and be a part of and build that family throughout the province of Alberta. So here we go. Let's go to the next page, Annette. So just quickly, I'm going to go over it just to remind everybody. I know several of you already know about this, but the Alberta Mentorship Program, our vision is to reduce the challenge to start a career mentorship program for newcomers in rural Alberta. So this is a way to hopefully, for us that started our programs several years ago, it didn't happen overnight. And there was a lot of trial and error and baptism by fire, I'd like to say. And that's how we've, sort of built our programs. It took some time, but we think that by having the AMP program, building the community of practice, is a way to expedite that process. We don't think you should forego the practice or the experience of starting up something, but this may expedite some of the work that's done. And as you can see, if you've been to the website, you can see that Annette's done an amazing job of distilling what Bruce, Randall, and myself in the beginning had put to words, and Annette just translated it and put it into content. The second piece is support the culture of mentorship in Alberta. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing today. And then support mentors and mentees. So for people who are interested, whether ultimately the work that we're going to be doing is going to have a benefit to mentees and helping them in their transition and their integration ultimately into the, whether it's, into Alberta and into the workforce, hopefully. And mentors as well who are interested in being a part of that or being complicit in helping people arrive at their goals. So the next slide, please. So here's a little bit of a breakdown of the project team. So there's myself, project lead, and I find this really still interesting to read organizational mentor, because I was a mentee for many years and talking to people right across Canada all the time about how they started up their mentorship program. And now today I'm on the other side, on the flip side. There's Cheryl Whitlaw, who's with Peace and Power Movement Services and is also our project manager, and also provides evaluation services. And Cheryl's been with us since day one. In fact, Cheryl's been with us. She was with I've worked with her since we were when she used to work at Northwest College, and she's been involved with the work of ERIEC and currently work with mentorship throughout the province of Alberta. So she's got some great experience and a really great breadth of experience. And Cinnamon Stacy and Vince Kelly have been our project officers and funder partners. And certainly we couldn't have done any of this without certainly their guidance and their support for our programs. And we're really grateful to have had them and still do have them with our program. And of course, Annette Wiestra, who's with Scriptorium Professional Writing Services, who's written all the content and communication services, and she's sort of our social media right-hand person. But beyond that, she understands the DNA of mentorship over these last few years, and she's been with us as well since the early days of AMP. So next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through all of these folks, but these were some of the early supporters and certainly stakeholders that we've been able to, sort of, for the most part, these folks are still involved in some way or capacity and provide support to the Alberta Mentorship Program. So as you can see, it's a fairly broad representation of the province, and certainly having that input, I think, as a good mentorship program would have, you need to have that two-way conversation. I mean, I still remember in early days, Bruce and I have always claimed that, we're not experts at this. We just damn the torpedoes and just face everything and just do it. And that's how we learned. And so we really feed off of the input and the conversations between the stakeholder groups and ourselves. And that's how I think we were successful in building certainly our own programs, but also this new AMP program. Next slide, please.
Oops, sorry, skipped one.
So this is our session topic. And so again, recruiting and retaining mentors. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers. Now, these are some of the questions that we had our speakers refer to when doing their presentations, and sort of good mentorship programs, they may or may not have followed exactly according to script, but that's just the way mentorship is. You move in accordance with sort of the general theme, which is recruitment and retention of mentors, and so they'll hopefully address these 5 points that we have in their presentations. Just one comment, broad comment, is recruitment and retention of mentors is a common challenge, and it's one of those things. It seems like the way the economy goes, it's always just up and down. Sometimes, we don't have a problem in recruiting mentors, and we've got, sort of, an abundance sometimes. And then there are times where, especially at the ERIEC office, we're like, oh my God, you got to find some more mentors, or find mentors in certain professional sectors, or in certain professions. And so we scramble a little bit, but we've always adhered into a sort of a strategic direction as well, because we've again had some great experiences in terms of trial and error. We tried this and it didn't work, or we tried this and it did work, and it worked once, and then now we have to change our strategy. So it's a very much a strategic imperative. So I'm going to move right into our presentations, because really that's where you're going to hear some good experiences that'll be shared. So I'm going to introduce Sarah Tangan, who's been with us for several years, and she herself has been through our programs, as well as been sort of the coordinator of the Connector program. She's been the mentorship facilitator, so she's seen the mentorship world from the mentee's eyes, as well as now as the mentorship director, kind of in charge of sort of the recruitment of mentors. And she has a career mentorship team of 3 people, which is a luxury of riches, I think. And I know for some of you who are starting your programs, you probably would love to be there and have extra staff and so on. So we've got a fantastic leader. Sarah's very passionate about mentorship, and I think you'll really enjoy her presentation. And then following that, we'll go to Najib's presentation, who is also very passionate about the work that he does. So go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Doug, for that lovely introduction. And good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. As Doug had mentioned, I've been a beneficiary of the program, and eventually had been appointed as someone who will be recruiting mentees, and now I'm in a very privileged position of recruiting mentors. And I'm so happy to be here to be sharing my story and the challenges, as well as the strategies that we're doing in order for us to recruit and retain mentors. And I will be presenting this slide. Just give me a moment to figure out how to share it properly. Awesome. Perfect. So I would like to start off by identifying the value proposition. So since we are recruiting mentors, we have to use their language when we are recruiting mentors for our program. So I'd like to use the keyword value proposition. What is it for the mentors? In order for them to join us, they have to find value on the program and the benefits that it could bring to them personally and to the work that they do. So one of the great slides that we have with ERIEC is the mentor key outcomes. So with mentorship, we value that our mentors are leaders. Like we recruit mentors who are mid-level to senior level mentors. And with this, with the mentorship, they will enhance their leadership, coaching, and intercultural competency. 100% of them also develop an appreciation for the skills and asset that newcomers can bring to employers. And recently, with the 2021 census, it has been identified that 5%, there is a 5% growth in the population, and 70% of that growth were due to immigrants coming in or newcomers coming in to Canada. And so there's more need for employers to get to know more newcomers and identify how to work well with newcomers as well. So there's more need for employers to interact with newcomers, interact with services like us. And over 90% will take an active interest in promoting skills, immigrants, talent in the workplace. So there's self-promotion if there are allies. I recently had this conversation with another mentor. They're now using, aside from the keyword allies, we use the word accomplice, right? So there's more accomplices, right? Like allies who could promote more skilled immigrants in the workplace. If they connect with us, partner with us, there's more value to the business as well if there's more diversity and inclusiveness in the workplace. So other key employer key outcomes, staff were equipped to lead and manage increasingly diverse workforce. There's corporate culture, it's more welcoming and understanding. My background is in HR, and there's a lot of discussions about psychological safety. It's more about being more welcoming with newcomers, with diverse workforce, understanding. There's no judgment on how we each other identify our thoughts or share our thoughts, our ideas, and how do businesses can accommodate more of that, right? So there's a lot of value in psychological safety if there are more mentors who are on board our program, and that's one of the value that we can offer. And talent attraction and retention. In my HR background as well, I've also learned that employees stay if they feel that what they're doing brings value or brings meaning to themselves, to the work that they do. And so if they find value to the cause that we are doing, they definitely could also they could also find value, and they also find meaning working for that employer. So if we have corporate partners who value the work that we do, it could also lead to them building this program as a talent attraction and retention strategy. And so, yeah, we encourage everyone to master your leadership through mentoring, and we encourage a lot of our volunteers to team up with ERIEC. And this slide is very special to me. As Doug has mentioned, I've been onboarding mentees as well. And this is the slide where I use this to manage mentees' expectation. So these are the mentors' roles. They are definitely considered as consultants. Some of the mentors shy away from the program because they might be thinking that, oh, I need to find a job for these mentees. But we tell them, no, it's actually, you're actually considered as consultants. You're there to strategize. You're considered as specialists. You have the network. You can introduce our mentees to your network, and that's all the expectation, right? So we also I tell mentors that you're there to help them, tell them how to fish. They're not there to give the fish to the mentees. They're not expected to find a job for the mentees. And the second role is they are considered as counselors. Why do I say that? Because job search is not a one size fits all. So our mentors try to identify the needs. So they're also doing a lot of needs assessment. What do the mentees needs? And they also strategize and find ways in order for them to also help the newcomer find opportunities within the industry. Last but not the least, and I believe this is one of the most important ingredient of, or the most important role of a mentor is they are considered as cheerleaders. A lot of newcomers are finding it difficult, or that they're unmotivated or a bit lost in this transition, and sometimes they lack the confidence, right? So it's very important to encourage the mentors to become cheerleaders or motivators to someone. These newcomers need someone to believe in them. So we consider them as cheerleaders in order for them to encourage our mentees to keep on finding the fish, to keep on looking for fish and opportunities. And now we continue with the challenges. So this is where we are all struggling, and we are all in the same boat of finding mentors. And in order for us to be more effective to the clients that we serve, we have to find the right mentor. Sometimes we do have a lot of mentors, but they might not be the right fit for that newcomer. So we find it challenging. And so there's also a time, as Doug has mentioned, there are times that wherein we are receiving a lot of mentors, but there are also times wherein no one is volunteering because the business community are struggling, they're very busy, they're cost cutting. I usually tell our clients to be patient, especially if they're engineers, because there's only two type of engineers right now. One is out of org, and the other one might be doing three roles at the same time. So yeah, so there's not enough mentors in that area, and so it is quite challenging for us. And then there's also a case wherein mentors are not willing or cannot commit to the program. Again, going back to those times wherein mentors might be engaged during the first time that they are coming, they are onboarded, and then eventually they lose the motivation to continue to commit to the program because of various reasons. And there's also a time wherein we might be onboarding a mentor who's not skilled in mentoring, not confident in mentoring, so they are not also engaged in mentoring a newcomer. So it's good to identify challenges, but we also have to identify solutions to these challenges. What I find effective for me is for me to continue recruiting, right? Like it's been my everyday goal of like identifying avenues to recruit mentors, right? Yeah, this month we are expecting a big number of mentees to be matched, and I'm not bothered because I have equal number of mentors who had been recruited for the past couple of months, and it's impossible for me not to be able to match any one of them from that pool as well. So my strategy is keep on recruiting, try to be more effective in matching mentors and mentees. And as Doug has mentioned, it's a trial and error. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. Sometimes I might not be matching the right mentee with the right mentor, and vice versa, right? Because these things happens, right? I'm not the one onboarding the mentees, I'm onboarding the mentors. So there's those challenges, but we keep on trying, we keep on rematching if needed, and trying to find the right way eventually as we move on and continue matching newcomers. And potential sources of mentors. For me, I'm in a privileged position. As Doug has mentioned, I've been also onboarding mentees in the future. And now they are qualified to become mentors. And so it's easy for me to reach out to them, see their progress. So that's also one of the strategy that I do. I try to be active in LinkedIn, check the former mentees, how are they doing, try to see what they are posting, and then eventually I see that they are already seasoned or already has the potential to become mentors, and so I re-invite them to join the mentorship program now as a mentor. And yeah, LinkedIn, I cannot say so, like I probably would be saying that I work more in LinkedIn than in my mails, right? Because that's where the opportunity for me to recruit mentors. It's like the modern version of cold calling. So that's where I spend more of my time looking for mentors. And of course, I have to also utilize my own network. Recently, I've been attending courses with the University of Alberta. I was able to get mentors through my own network, my classmates, my instructors, people in my community, and so on and so forth. And of course, we also have to maximize our employer partners. We do have employer partners who are very big in supporting DEI initiatives. And so that's a great opportunity as well to fish for mentors. And yeah, my first slide is more related to the compelling mentor recruitment strategies. But the reason why I am posting or I'm sharing these statements from employer partners such as RBC is because when we are recruiting mentors, I always try to put myself in their position. So again, going back to that keyword of the value proposition. So what does the business community need? What does the business community supports right now? So right now, the DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are are one of the main goal of organizations. And so I try to use their words, right, when we are promoting our program as well to different employer partners. And I like this, this statement from Rogers. Rogers Sports and Media is also collaborating for mentorship. They have a national mentorship initiative, and they would like to give back, and they would like to make an impact. And so I also try to use this as an opportunity to share to other mentors about the opportunity of giving back. There are a lot of mentors who used to be newcomers as well. And this is a great opportunity to share that there are a lot of employers who value giving back to the community as well. And this is one of the initiatives that I just recently implemented. I try to ask them, right? So those mentors who recently had been successful in creating more leaders, right? So I asked them, so, oh, your mentee had been successful in finding an opportunity in such a short time. So why are you volunteering? What's your goal? Why do you want to continue helping newcomers? And so that's one way of me identifying ways in order to keep them on board, right? Keep them more engaged, motivated to help another newcomer. And yeah, going back to that last slide, how do I retain mentors once they said yes? So again, going back to the value proposition, I would like to identify the pain points of the mentors. There's a lot of mentors who would like to become diversity, equity, inclusion allies, right? Recently, we had a very great conversation with Enbridge. They would like to support refugees. And so there's a great opportunity for us to identify ways to support their initiative. And a lot of our mentors, like recently I had been in touch with someone from David Applin. She's looking for payroll professionals. She's looking for people in accounting. She's finding it hard to find diverse talents. And so she's collaborating with us. She's mentoring with us. And that's her pain point. And I try to make sure that I pay attention, right? Like whenever I find someone who's qualified, I keep in touch with the mentorship facilitator and tell her that whenever you find someone who's excellent in this area, I can connect them with recruiter A, B, and C. So please keep that in mind because I want to keep them engaged. And so I try to initiate on my own, even though they're not asking. I connect with them and tell them, hey, we found someone who's very passionate about payroll or passionate about accounting. Would you like to take a look at their resume? And so and she's very happy when she found this profile. And a lot of our mentors are looking for volunteering hours. I was very happy to onboard this engineer, and she says, Sarah, are you offering a certificate? Because I need to present that to APEGA and to consider that as my volunteering hours because that's part of the PD hours that they're looking for. And so I did so. There's another mentor who asked for a certificate because he needed the volunteering hours in order for him to get a grant or a scholarship from a private institution. So there are those type of mentors who has that pain points. And since we're recruiting for mid-level mentors as well, they're looking for leadership opportunities, and mentorship is an opportunity for them to develop that. And so they're looking for this opportunity to mentor a newcomer. And a lot of employer partners, as I've mentioned in the past slides, there are a lot of employers who has their DE&I statements, DEI propositions in their website. So they're looking for visibility. And one way of doing that, being visible in taking action, they're not just talking the talk, but they're also walking the walk, right? So there's an opportunity of us presenting their visibility in supporting diversity and inclusion opportunities through mentorship. And that's all for my part. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the session.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, this is great content, and yeah, as you can see, there's a number of different types of strategies, and we can sort of bear down on some other if you have any questions later. But I'd like to, at this point, introduce Najib Mangal with Lethbridge Family Services. And Najib's got, like I say, as I mentioned before, they Lethbridge Family Services cut their teeth on a different, had some experience in working with families in a mentorship role, but not necessarily in an employment focus. But it was just basically on how to help people integrate into the Lethbridge area, and they use that and leverage that as a way to get into a more expanded version of mentorship, and they do have a focus on careers. And I know that Najib has had the luxury of having a couple of people on staff, but I think it's now down again to just Najib, perhaps, and maybe some ancillary staff. But I'm just really in awe of Najib in terms of keeping the fire burning on this one, and so looking forward to hearing your presentation and your practical and applied experience on the front in Lethbridge. So go ahead, Najib.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. No, we're back on track. As a matter of fact, I have one of my colleagues here today joined us on this presentation as well. So yeah, we worked really hard for the past 4 or 5 months to bring the team back together, and we're just back on track in deploying resources again. Thanks again. And I will begin with actually I will begin with thanking the team, everyone that have invited me, the organizer of this meeting, for the invitation today. It is great to be here, and I'm excited, and I'm hoping and looking forward to getting to know most of you. We have done some work for the past 2 years. We call ourselves being new to this project, but we have done some work before that, kind of from the side of our desk. As Doug mentioned, we have this fire keep going the fire still keep burning in its we call ourselves new, but we're not new. So reach out, connect, and we're all our doors are always open for partnership in getting our ideas together. For those of you who don't know me already, my name is Najib Mangal. I work for LFS, and I'm in charge of career mentorship and work placement program, and also I run the community connection program. We are an IRCC funded organization and one of Canada's 42 RAP settlement destination. Because our 85% of our clients are newly arrived refugees, the majority of our activities or services are geared toward refugees. When we worked with newcomers in the past, especially the skilled workers, some of our programs were not aligned with what we were serving at that time. So as Doug mentioned, so what to expect from this presentation today, I will be sharing kind of on the ground our own observation, our own experience here in our community. I know we are sharing similar observation challenges, as Sarah mentioned, but in smaller community, some of those challenges will be kind of relevant to what that community is and what they're experiencing. So, so these topics are especially relevant to those of you who are working in smaller communities, or either considering beginning a career mentorship program, or already in the process of seeking some fundings. Doug, Bruce Randall, ourselves, and a few other communities have done some of that work in the past. Again, we have open door policy to please reach out and connect. We'll share our observation in our experiences. So I've been tasked in to speak on some of those experiences since launching the program. We will be sharing some of our lessons learned, observation. I will try to describe the rich role of what mentor is, some challenges, potential source of mentorship, making compelling cases in strategy and retaining mentorship. But before we dive into the further information, I would like to kind of highlight your attention to the new immigration level plan. And I share that with most of my colleagues. And I think it's really important for us to kind of know where we're at and what we're looking for in the future in terms of this whole banner is in front of my way. Just give me 2 seconds. I have to just remove this banner, which is in front of my way. There you go. So this new immigration level plan was actually released November 1st. That states in 2023 to 2025, the number of newcomers that will be arriving to Canada will increase from 320 to 400. It was moved to 420,000, but by 2025, we will be receiving or welcoming 500,000 newcomers. So that number is increased, and it's changing. And I've seen it since 2020 to now. They have introduced few different immigration level plans, and so this one is a brand new one that shows that by 2025 they will be welcoming 500,000. And believe it or not, the refugee numbers are still very static. They've increased it from 7,500 maybe to 17,000, but the rest is all in area of skilled workers. So, and if you go back to the previous page, their focus is this time on rural communities. So the rural community, it says the plan also bring to increase focus on attracting newcomers to different regions of the country, including small town and rural communities. So their focus is to support that resettlement in smaller communities. So in the future, how do you align yourself with this new plan? And we knew that in 2020 that the number are increasing, and also from our experiences and services that we were offering to internationally trained professionals, we were lacking some of those services. So let's go back to our presentation and talk about the need for this program and how did we start it with the program. So why was the career mentorship and work placement program was necessary? I know Doug and Sarah was talking about the mentorship piece, but we're a small community. We couldn't just have one component of supporting the internationally trained professionals. So what we've done is we put 6 or 7 different components together to support internationally trained professionals, because we're the only organization, the only agency in community serving internationally trained professional, aside from having college and flexibility who are focusing on LINK program or English acquisition program. We were the only agency to support majority of those individuals. As I mentioned early, 85% of or 90% of our services and activities are tailored to those the refugee clients that we were serving. And so I worked as a settlement practitioner for 10 years, and every time I've met and I had the intake with internationally educated trained professionals, I saw the bulk of them for the first time, and then never heard back from them. And that trend continued every year. So ourselves and our management ponder on this phenomenon of what is going on and why we can't see those international trained professionals again. So we pondered on this idea of how to serve them better for many years before we did a short survey to reach out to IEPs to see if they were benefiting from our services and collect an input from them how to serve them better. It was not surprising to me, of course, but our management were kind of taken back a little bit by that to discover that we lacked the tailored solution they needed. So internationally trained professionals, they receive very little support, especially in smaller communities. The vast majority of IEPs do not require assistance with finding homes and houses, getting SIN numbers, applying for healthcare cards, or applying for child health benefit, bridging them with schools. They do that already. They do it really well. And they start this process in advance. Or learning English, because the majority of them, they have English level 6 or 7 or 8 coming to Canada, and that's the requirement for their application. And also we provide series of information sessions that offers, sessions about laws, norms, and etc. Internationally trained professionals actually do not need most of those services. Instead, they needed services more like employment counseling, improving their resumes, cover letter, interview skills, and they needed assistance with preparation for licensures and certification. They need workshop on job search strategy, on how to network and how to market their transferable skills. They needed to be more connected with mentors to get that direct insight on their field of expertise or education in Canada. I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, we're not engineers. I can facilitate to have someone with them, but that direct insight usually comes from someone who's in the field providing that direct insight. They needed short-term work placement. They have many other barriers to overcome that not having Canadian experience or to demonstrate their skills and ability directly to employers. That's one of the programs that I will actually be really closely comparing the result of this short-term work placement with the mentorship at the same time. It's very, very effective. So as you see that we had gap in services as well as gap in bridging the IEPs with local employers and mentors. So in 2020, we received fundings from IRCC to create and promote that mentorship in workplace culture in Lethbridge. And so that's when we partnered with ERIEC in support from CRIAC to do some work and do that project in Lethbridge. And we were really successful with that. I personally believe, since we've launched this program, I personally believe that career mentorship and work placement is a proven immigrant career transition strategy that benefits all parties, employers, mentors, and of course the mentees at the same time. So let's now go to the role of a mentorship. It's a really, really I would say vast responsibility. I don't think there's a one definition, but we want our mentors, or you can think of a mentor, someone who's a guide, who guides an individual towards personal and professional development by providing advice and insight. The mentor's extensive knowledge is put to good use to offer advice on individuals and professional career. As Sarah mentioned, we do not want, our mentors are not someone who's finding a job for a mentee or does everything for them. Rather, he or she is a professional contact who provides direct insight and guidance. In that role of a mentee, we must be very, very clear with our mentee on this role of a mentor, because the entire concept of mentorship is really, really new to most folks from other countries, all volunteerism. We have another program that is funded by Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, is Community Connection, where we recruit 200 volunteers and connect them directly in a friendship relationship with newcomers. And it's similar to mentorship, but the objective is a little different. Majority of newcomers, they are not familiar with this idea or the concept of mentorship or someone or volunteerism. So we have to be really clear as to what that role of mentorship, mentor or a volunteer is. So that's why a good structure in collaboration is a key success to a good mentorship. The information, advice, and resources shared by mentors or kind of determined by that format and the goal of a mentorship relationship. So we have to have a good structure around it. So again, as I mentioned, yes, it is crucial that we as a service provider create that structure around and have a great action plan based on more of an accurate evaluation of a client's need. This will provide great clarity for mentors. Just like mentees, not all mentors are kind of experienced enough with navigating through that maze of mentorship. So we have to put some sort of frame around this and dig into that need of exactly what the need of mentor is. So what is a good mentor? Aside from what I discussed earlier, the mentor shares knowledge about his or her work path with a mentee, as well as offers guidance, inspiration, emotional support. A successful mentor will also assist with career exploration, some goal setting, some networking, and of course, the main one is resource finding. We also let our mentors know that mentor position is not static. It doesn't stay in one place. It swivels, of course. It can be shifting as mentee needs are changing at the same time. Some of our mentorship relationships are very structured. We have specific objectives injected into that relationship, and we have some procedures around it, whereas others are more of a kind of informal. So we are open, and we let our mentors know that they have to be flexible to accommodate that need and that shift and change that happens in that relationship. Again, I cannot elaborate and say it more and more that it is very important that the initial setup should include some solid framework and some planning that needs to be done. And for that, I would say refer you to the AMP sites, which will offer great tools and help you with putting that frame around it in that solid frame, solid work. We personally adopted a great deal of those tools from the AMP website. Of course, it cannot be used as it is. And of course, we changed them and made them be our own and something that works for us in the community. Of course, some of the observation that Sarah shared is very similar, but you will have some other challenges that your community has. So take that information and kind of change it and make it your own. Again, mentorship is a simple concept, but putting it into kind of practice can be a little tricky. And so also, I don't want to forget to encourage your mentors more and more to connect with mentees as much as possible in order to better understand that initial goal as to what to look forward to in what the need is and what they're meeting with, in what area they're helping that mentee. So I've now I will just kind of in a bullet point, few points about what are the good qualities and what is a good role of mentorship look like. So some of the expectations are that mentors should understand the Canadian workplace culture and job market if in their professional field. And of course, they have to be good listeners. They have to always give that good, honest feedback, not to be biased and not give unprofessional advice, and never sugarcoat it, because some of that message could be lost culturally. That message could be lost. In an honest and straightforward feedback is really beneficial. A good mentor, or the role is to hold mentee accountable for the goal that they set together. Provide contact to enhance their network, and not to do the work for the mentee to meet their career objectives. That's not the role of a mentor. Do not force to force a mentee to complete the task. Again, that need could change at any time. And do not solve any challenges or make any decisions for mentee. A good mentor should know that a mentee is not a passive participant in that mentorship relationship. The mentee should be expected to play an active role in that relationship, in that learning, and of course in their pursuit of a job search or career transition. Some of the challenges, of course, some of our challenges are very similar to what Sarah was saying, but I will kind of go to the nitty-gritty of some of the things that we observe here on the ground. Recruitment of mentorship for internationally trained professionals is not the same as recruitment for individuals within an organization to mentor a colleague. We look for people from all walks of life, field, expertise. In some cases, we actually look for individuals from different gender to connect with newcomers. The difficulty is not to find mentors. Sarah mentioned that as well, but it is also to locating the relevant, someone in a relevant field. For example, in Lethbridge, we have 3 architecture companies, and we've reached out to them maybe 10 times now to see if they're willing to provide some support around mentoring our mentees. Again, we're always challenged in asking for the same people over and over to mentor. We're cautious and aware of mentor burnout. If we have a pool of mentors that are helping you, be aware of that burnout. So we don't ask for them over and over to do the same thing for us. Again, that mentor burnout is one of those things that opens up a new a different issue. I think Bruce will have a lot to say on that once we're done here. Another challenge is that we face is that going back to the same people or going back to the same organization that initially kind of rejected the idea of mentorship in hopes that they will reconsider their decision. But we stay consistent. And again, of course, we give them a break and we follow up with them. Persistency is the goal. If they tell us, call us back in January, we will call you back in January. Mark that. So we will call you back in February if you say that. The other challenge is that in our community, the greatest obstacle is the fear of unknown. Majority of communities not comfortable in not knowing what they're getting into. most stakeholders or individuals are concerned about that they don't have that they don't have the time, and we hear that over and over. We're busy this month. Connect with us in January. Others are concerned with not having the right skills or qualification. We're not qualified. I don't think we're fit for this. We've never, or some other will say, we've never done this, and we don't know how to go about it. And when we hear that, of course, this is where we come in and to alleviate some of those anxiety by reassuring them that they are not required to have all the answers and knowledge, nor they're obligated to find a job immediately or find a job at all. We let them, the mentors are more of motivators, as Sarah said, they're cheerleaders in a guide to assist individuals finding their own solution. They don't have to create those solutions for them or make those solutions. Potential source. I believe, again, Sarah mentioned this earlier. I would say LinkedIn in cold calls are top strategies for inviting and recruiting mentors. LinkedIn Professionals actually has a subscription plan, provides many more options and unlimited access to reach out to professionals who are only looking for 5 or 10 individuals a year or every 6 months. The basic plans will do. It's a great tool. It's actually a really proven tool to have. And if you're applying for fundings, make sure that that subscription is always embedded. Subscription cost is embedded into your proposal, because it's costly. It costs thousands of dollars to have that subscription. I would say cold call is comes in the second place. However, both kind of cold calls in LinkedIn, we briefly kind of touch base with those individuals in kind of about our program to invite them to a potential half an hour information sessions, during which we explain the program in our objective kind of in depth, in answer some of those questions and kind of alleviate those anxieties they may have. It is a really, really effective method or ways. Emails, usually you don't have enough to say because nobody reads your email, or if you're making that initial phone calls, you cannot explain and take people's time. So once you're invited them to that information orientations of your program and the objective, answering their question, alleviating that anxiety, now you have their attention directly. So that initial contact through LinkedIn and phone call, I call that as a hook. It's like a TV program that they will talk about something and they go on a break and say, we will be right back. And so that's kind of a hook. Come on, meet with us and we'll talk to you in further. Now you have their attention. They will, of course, meet with you. Third strategies is the most, I would say, one of the important ones as well. As important as the first and second, it is stay involved. I would suggest to stay involved and participate in most community events such as expos and career fairs and local immigration partnership events, other organizations that are offering events, chamber events, economic development partnership with them. Of course, we're serving on most community committees in boards. It's one of the ways to kind of promote your program and put your needs out there in community. It may sound kind of obnoxious, but I would say be loud about and be vocal about the work that you do. What I mean by that is to tell the stakeholders in the communities and SPOs about the clients you serve, and tell them about their needs, so they come to know you. Otherwise, nobody will come knocking on your door to say, "Hey, how are you doing? And what do you need?" That rarely happens. Talk about your success stories and achievements. Speak about the type of benefits are there for your employers, for their employers. Most employers are not aware of this untapped source of workforce. They have no idea that they can tap in, and they don't know how to. They're familiar with TFW program, but they don't understand that there are 500,000 people coming to Canada, and majority of them are fit for their needs. Last but not least is one of the recruitment strategies to conduct information sessions to college, university, chamber, Rotary Club, business club, and more. I would say. I offer an information session, which is really, really effective and actually educate communities at the same time. It's called Immigration Matters. In most cases, the community wants to know and they want to be involved, but they don't know how to, or they don't have the information, or they have misinformation about what immigration is and the benefits of immigration. This is where you will have an opportunity to showcase your program and share with the community. Again, I'm giving you some of those things that we do on the ground. I don't have a general idea of what mentorship, but these are all kind of our experience on the ground. Strategies to make some compelling cases. AMP, Alberta Mentorship, has great tools on this. But before we go there, I want to kind of suggest that you explain, be transparent, explain the role clearly, and be very, very transparent about it. Don't sound like more of as a salesperson. I kind of try to stay away from it, but I can't stay away from it. I usually sound like more of a salesperson. So sounded more like a partnership, that they're a partner. Explain that that you are a non-for-profit organization and that you're funded, and what your goal is, that you're trying to help make that connection. Always speak about the needs, and also, of course, the benefit of for employers, employees, and mentors. One of the questions that we always get is, for me, that we get from communities: what's in it for me? Believe it or not, in some cases, we would ask, do I get paid to be a mentor? And for that, I will say, what's in it for me? I will take you back to the AMP project. They have great info or things that will benefit employers. Sarah actually alluded to this, but develop leadership skills. That could be for individuals or the organization as a whole. Be collaborative, improve cultural competency, learn about the industry, show investment in your career. These are all great benefits for employers. I worked in settlement for 17 years. Most of the time, I don't know what impacts am I making unless I talk about it. Then I realize that I'm actually making some differences in people's life and trying to help. So again, this project has some great tools. You're not doing anything alone by yourself. There's great partners within this project, and of course, the website is a great tool on its own. Of course, one of the main benefits, I would say, for employers is that untapped source of skilled and potential employees for their business. I usually bring this to the forefront, and I say again and again, mentorship has shown to be one of the most valuable and effective development opportunities for everyone involved. strategies to retain mentors. Again, there are many strategies, but one of the main strategy is, I think, again, Sarah alluded to some of those. Provide ongoing support to your mentors, especially the ones that are brand new to the program. If you provide that ongoing support to the first mentorship arrangement, the mentors will gain that confidence and be able to handle the second half or of that arrangement or subsequent mentorship. That support is very, very important. I would say during that mentorship, conduct frequent follow-up to help them understand that they're not doing this on their own, that they're not alone, and offer support if they need it. It's very, very important. It's not always, if you putting that mentorship in relationship, facilitate that mentorship relationship, it is not always about your client. Protect your mentors at any cost from burnout and misuse. I might be blunt about this, but I rather have 3 clients leaving the program than one mentor, because I serve hundreds of clients a year, but mentors are their weight comes in gold compared to gold. And in small communities, they are a commodity, they're scarcity, and so I rather protect my mentors. I'm not saying that I'm not protecting clients, but I'm saying mentors are scarcity in smaller communities. Spread that again, as I mentioned, we face some challenges of recruiting mentors in smaller communities to spread out their turns to make sure that they provide them that little bit of break, that they have enough break. Again, acknowledge your mentor when they successfully complete mentorship. Celebrate them on annual basis, 6 months, whatever works for you, whatever that looks. We usually celebrate our mentors on the 3rd week of November, which is a National Volunteer Week. And we provide them with awards and certification and acknowledgement. It's really effective. It's be creative and stay creative with that work. Engage them in your ongoing events to share their expertise, lesson learned in their achievements, and of course, if there is potential exposure to their professional development and professional opportunities, mentors are a great place to tap into. Treat them like partners. Invite them to your open houses, annual general meetings, and fundraisers, and open house, and make them feel that they are part of your organization, that are not someone that you use them and keep them in the back burner. I will conclude it here. Going back to that main point that I said, it is really, really proven model. I would say our mentorship and work placement, it has produced, still producing a great deal of support for us. Our success rate so far in a mentorship and work placement is about 70 to, it actually increasing, 65 to 70% success rate in finding employers, finding employment in the field that the newcomers are looking for. I will turn it back to Annette.
Thank you, Najib and Sarah. Those were both really great presentations, and I love seeing, having done this for a while, I know mentors are a big challenge for a lot of organizations, so it's really important information. I think with our remaining time, Doug, do we want to leave time for questions and more conversation?
Yeah, we've got, and I want to respect everybody's time. We've got about 13 minutes left in our session that we booked this morning. So I would like to open it up to the group that's here this morning to ask. I mean, thanks again, Sarah and Najib. This is amazing. I'm listening to all of this conversation. I feel like I'm still a newbie in some ways. I listen to this and I go, wow, this is so exciting. It's so interesting to see the articulation from Najib's perspective as well as from Sarah's perspective. This is so valuable. And I'm thinking for the group that's been brought here this morning, you've got some great expertise, and here's an opportunity to glean information from two people that really have on the ground experience. So we're going to open it up and ask that if you have any questions with regards to the presentation this morning, with regards to recruitment, this would be a great opportunity to do that now.
Well, good morning, Doug, and good morning, Annette, and good morning all. Rick Morales from CCIS. Thank you all for the insightful and informative and collaborative, and this power of knowledge is certainly the path that's going to help us be successful in our endeavors. So my question is not so much a question, but I want to toss this out to the group and see if there's an answer somewhere in between. When we take a look at mentorship in the context of a rural area, again, I want to disaggregate when we talk about rural, because rural Lethbridge and rural Red Deer looks very different than rural Brooks or rural Clarksville. Lethbridge, Red Deer, Medicine Hat are closer to urban settings than how it's going to play out in a smaller context. And I think when we looked at the mentorship programming that we were doing in smaller communities, we knew it had to be different. We knew that it's going to follow some different pathways. But I think one of the challenges that I've been percolating and grappling with and thinking about and trying to figure out how we're going to overcome this challenge is the fact that sometimes you have mentees who are, by and large, in these smaller rural contexts, working in the service industry. They may have come with different foreign credentials, and they haven't been able to get opportunities to use that. And they may find themselves in the service industry and maybe looking for career change. But what I have noticed, or what are the barriers that I'm seeing, is the fact that if they wanted to embark upon a mentorship program, it would mean that that's taken time away from a paid position. And now some of them are working in 2 different jobs. So the time allotted to embark upon a mentorship program, it could be sometimes prohibitive, depending on the career pathway they want to choose, if they wanted to choose something totally different from their existing jobs. So, there used to be programs, and I think they still do exist, where there could be some seed funding for employers to say, look, if you want to take on a mentee, we would provide X number, we would subsidize some payments for that particular time when the mentee is with you. Does anyone know of any existing subsidies or those type of programs that could augment, the payment for a mentor who is willing to do that, and would probably help the mentee as well?
I'm gonna just put that out to the broader group, or maybe just before Ricardo. Like, I'm not aware. I mean, it's a bit of a conflict too, right? I mean, because here we are, like, looking for volunteers, and then this would be a different ask from the communities, and I think going back again to what Najib said, we are really careful about the asks, because we are asking people to volunteer their time. And when we say volunteer, there is benefits to mentors, that it in terms of, basically they're getting free leadership, sort of training, intercultural training, in the sense of, just because it's pragmatic, it's applied work. So they are getting something in return to the business, but to actually have paid volunteers would be interesting. The other thing too that I think in at ERIEC as well as ERIEC and with Najib's program, we also have the Connector program, which is a smaller time allotted to for people, so like a one-time sort of connection, which it serves to the mentor who doesn't have the time, and it serves for the mentee who may not have the time as well. So it's kind of a very short connection point for the mentee to meet with somebody from their professional sector. So I just wanted to say that out loud. But Najib, Sarah, did you want to respond to that question?
I haven't, as you said, I haven't heard or have never proposed to the funders to seek fundings to support that culture of mentorship in work placement. We have asked funders in the past to subsidize the work placement. The work placement is usually 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And again, that subsidy did not come for the person who's supporting the work placement, but someone who's actually participating, like your client. Again, federal government rejected that, but we have never been successful with the Alberta government in supporting our objective. But there are programs in the community that supports and subsidizes some of those initiatives. And I believe the funders are not supporting projects like that because one or two already exist in the community. But in terms of that volunteer work or mentorship, and I have not come across one, and I don't think it will be. So far, we're successful with recruiting the mentors that we need within the program. And again, community is willing to give, and it's your creativity on how you create that compelling case for them. It's not. I'm not sure if money is always the solution. Communities has been really supportive, and we've been successful so far. And maybe in the future to look forward to that. But at this time point, things that we're doing, the strategies we're deploying, it's producing results.
Yeah, thanks, Najib. I mean, we have a community connections program in Clarissoma. We have that in Brooks, and we work with our settlement folks as well because it's part of our basket of services. But I think the issue, because there used to be in Alberta, and there probably still is, when I was in a different profession, they had the registered apprenticeship program, and where there was some seed money going. So as I'm looking at some of these programming, I did speak to a couple of potential clients who expressed this dilemma. They said, look, here I am working 2 jobs. I'm in the service industry. I love this mentorship concept, but if I need to devote time to be a mentee, it would be taken away from the time where I'm actually earning dollars. Yeah. So the more I look at that shift in thinking, and I'm seeing it in smaller centers, I know now this is going to be, I need to figure out how we're going to work with our community folks, potential mentors and mentees, to solve that particular barrier. And that's it.
Right.
That's an interesting debate. And I was just thinking of, Sarah, I just want maybe if you being a participant in the mentorship program and now just maybe get your perspective on that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, Doug, I was actually thinking about how to influence, right? Like the mindset of newcomers, of the people who's leading the program. And that's also, and I want to align that with what Najib had mentioned earlier about protecting our mentors. So we also have to be careful about the intake process of our mentees, right? So we also have to see the commitment of the mentee. They should be willing to invest time on themselves. So I guess that would be the best value proposition to the mentees that's coming into your place, right? Like you have to also invest time, commit a time for you to meet a mentor in order for you to reach your long-term goal. So it's not just like a short-term perspective, but a longer-term commitment in order for them to reach their success.
Great, and I know we can go on this topic as well. Kimo's got his hand up as well. Kimo, did you want to chime in, or did you have another question?
Just a quick one. Sorry, I came late. I just arrived 3 o'clock this morning from a P2P conference in Ottawa.
Oh my God! Good for you to participate.
Yeah, I came, I think, 30 minutes ago. And I think as Ricardo is saying there, and I see the aspect of the idea of having dedicated mentors, but when we want to use or encourage people who are having 2 jobs, one of the things we discussed on P2P is even giving honorariums to immigrants who are participating in our immigrant advisory table because they are sharing lived experience, and many times this requires a lot, and slowly IRCC is agreeing to that in some projects that we're doing, giving honorarium, because before it was never there, because that encouraged, because we lose people over time, or lose people who have the interest over time, and small centers is very, very difficult to get a lot of pool of people, except those who are retired, to volunteer to be mentee or mentors. But if you want somebody actively working, it is challenging if there are no incentives. So that's just what I wanted to throw in there.
Great, thanks, Kimo. Rhodas?
Thank you, everyone, for all the wealth of knowledge that you've shared so far. A quick question that I have is, have you experienced where a mentee has, a skill set, education background in one field, but once they've, relocated to Canada, they now want to pursue an entirely different field? Like, have you encountered that? If you have, how did you approach that piece?
Yeah, I think this is a great question for Najib and for Sarah.
Yeah, for ERIEC, we do accommodate clients who would like to transition into another industry, provided they're also taking an effort or making some taking credentials, taking courses relevant to that transition. So yes, we do accept clients as long as we see their commitment in transitioning to that industry, making an effort to take some courses.
Again, yeah, I wanted to add to that, that accurate evaluation and assessment has to happen at the beginning. In some instances, individuals coming with, education in one area, but their expertise is completely something else, something different. And that's where you kind of dissect their needs. Do they really need to go into different fields? Do they need to really concentrate on the past 10 years of experience or their education? Of course, at the end, the choices are made by the mentors, mentee himself or herself, but aligning that reality, aligning their thought or their goal with the reality, it takes them some time. I have, in many instances, I had an individual coming with their master's degrees, and they can easily get their credential or accreditation here in Canada, but they want to do their master's. They don't want to do their doctorates. Is there a need for that? Would that help them or assist them in any way? And so we need to kind of break it down for them and say, okay, in Canada, you have 10 years of experience. There's a huge gap within your past educational path that you've taken, but now you have 10 years of experience in completely something different. And break it down for them and see what is available out there for them. Align them. It takes time, but the ultimate goal is decision is made by them. But it's our job to be creative on how we can. We're not influencing them in any how, but we giving them that reality check kind of.
Mhm. Well, I think that's the spirit of what we do, right? Is
Yeah.
for them to make informed decisions. We strategically convene them with experts or with professionals, colleagues, and that's where they can make that decision. I think, as Sarah said, we're not giving them the fish.
Yeah.
We're teaching them how to fish. So, I mean, I think that's really important because at the end of the day, they ultimately have to make they're obviously all of the clients we work with are very capable. They just need the information to be, sort of to analyze and evaluate whether or not, as you said, Najib, should I do this? Because it's going to cost me an extra $10,000-$15,000 if I went through with this or whatever it was going to cost. Is that really going to help you to reach your goal? So I mean, like those conversations are the ones that need to take place with the mentor or with our program people and so on. It is 11:02. If people are willing to stay on, that's fine. I don't mind. Annette, I think, are you okay with that? If people want, I do want to respect. If you have to go, that's fine. I hate taking people over the time, and I know everybody's got other meetings and have other things that they need to do to get through their Friday, but we're willing to stay on. Najib and Sarah, are you okay for an extra, let's say we could go for an extra 10 minutes or so, if that's okay with everyone? Because I think it seems like there's some great dialogue going. I don't want I want people to have a chance to have those connections and have a conversation about some of the material that you guys shared with us this morning. So, are there other questions? I know we're just sort of, in some ways, like cursory responses and some of these deeper sort of issues, but here's an opportunity to ask the experts, if you will, some questions. Any other questions from the material that you heard this morning? Like recruitment is, I think, like Sarah, we, some of the things that we do, and I think Najib, you referred to, sort of acknowledging, the work of the volunteer work at this point, of all of our mentors, and Sarah, you were involved with some pretty successful social media campaigns, acknowledging on LinkedIn. I think those kinds of things are important. Annette, I know that you do a lot of monitoring of our social media campaign. And maybe if you wanted to speak a little bit to that in terms of how we're getting the word out and how we message to people. I think we're getting a little bit better about how we acknowledge the benefit of mentorship. But Sarah or Annette or anybody else?
Yes, Doug, recently I find it helpful whenever we're posting success stories to share it with mentors and the people who are connected in our LinkedIn community. And yeah, there was this opportunity where one mentor was like very excited to say like, oh, I've been away from the program. You haven't reached out to me for volunteering hours. I've seen that there's a lot of successes that you're posting. I would like to be a part of it. So yeah, so like that visibility is very helpful. So, and they also like to see like real faces. So whenever I'm having those success stories, right? Like I'm very excited to reach out to the mentee and tell them to write a short blog, and then we will help them out. A lot of our mentees are not comfortable writing a full blog, but we tell them that we're here to support you, and we will be the one reviewing, polishing it, and posting it on your behalf. And so, yeah, I find it very effective recently to share those success stories.
Good. And I know, Kimo, you've got another one, but Annette, could you talk a little bit about, you've worked on the social media campaign for us as ERIEC, but also you've also worked as the social media campaign for AMP. So
yeah, so I've been lucky to work with both of you, and actually Hannah is here today. She's my colleague, and she is now helping me with the AMP social media too. But one of the things I noticed, I think, like Sarah said, the stories and the people really help. But the other thing that gets a good pickup is actually stats and the facts. And I think those are those educational pieces that both Sarah and Najib have talked about. But it's like being able to put that, there's actual proof and data behind the benefits of being a mentor and a mentee. And I think that can kind of link into what the discussions around might not be able to pay people or have like a monetary clear payout, but really emphasizing those benefits to the mentor, because there is there's good research to show that it benefits, like the benefits to the mentee are so easy because it's about learning the skills and the things and helping you connect to the community and the job. But with the mentor, it can be a little harder with the leadership skills and so on. So backing those up with numbers seems to be a good thing to do, to pop those in and have some traction around those pieces. So that can be helpful.
Great. Thanks, Annette. Kimo?
Yeah, I think first, as I said, I came late but a few things that I met about the social media piece which you're addressing. I was wondering if the recording would be available, because my partner who would be handling this mentorship for the Lloydminster is returning from Barbados as well today. I was hoping to have joined, but unfortunately the internet connection was poor, so she was not able. And she's looking forward to this. But and I think I like the aspect of storytelling as a key piece of actually attracting and getting people tied into things. I've used videos in many other areas I think that would be some of the strategy would be using to probably sell this to the community and to mentees and mentors and the value of it. In fact, definitely, and I think it was interesting that that aspect is there, and then support like Annette will be there to see, maybe work with Annette to see in developing a video or something that could actually be posted on our Facebook. Where WhatsApp has been another key area that I'm using for the immigrant advisory table, because it's on their hand. When you send WhatsApp messages, people get it so easy. And if a short video on something, you send it through WhatsApp, it's so easy for them to get it. And not all of them maybe want to go on Facebook or other things, but WhatsApp is so easy for them to get it so easily. So I use WhatsApp a lot as a means of reaching out to people.
Kimo, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I just suddenly remember a very creative solution that I also use to increase the number of mentors is to also reach out to mentors who are outside of Edmonton. I know it might be difficult, right? Like, 'cause sometimes the credential accreditation might be different from one region to another, right? So for those industries that might be difficult to match mentors and mentees outside of the region. But yeah, for those areas wherein accreditation is not needed, it might be a very creative initiative to start off, right, if you would like to increase the number of mentors.
And I think quickly, I'm conducting, I think by next month or so, I'm starting a research. And one of the good pieces of this is that I'm going to gauge the interest even within the immigrant population about the interest in mentorship. Would they like to be mentored about certain things in their careers? And also gauging the professions that we would be requiring mentors on, because so that we know, are they just lawyers or nurses, or are they engineers? So I'm looking at if you guys have questions that you can help me with that could bring out some of those, I'll kindly appreciate whilst I'm developing the questions for the research. So that was the other question I think I forgot to ask.
No, this is great. This is really good. I mean, I think Najib can speak to the, like the previous iteration of your mentorship program, the community connection piece. I think that's excellent way to, because basically what we're trying to do is convene people to the information or to a welcoming community or a welcoming profession. You need to make that happen. So I think where, like, the practical example of Lethbridge is that you've had experience, you had experience before you got into the career, sort of iteration of mentorship. So I think those things are really important. Just wanted to add one other thing on the social media piece. Annette, I know, worked on something. This is really interesting. We, instead of developing new material for social media, we did some really creative things with using existing video work. So Annette, in her sewing shop there at social media, cut and pasted and trimmed and added, so basically using existing material instead of having to always, because it can get expensive when you're looking at, developing new material. I know of a lot of organizations, we have existing content. And Annette, I don't know if you want to just talk a little bit about that.
Well, Kimo, you said too about video. And I think one of the things that's happening right now is with TikTok, and then now Instagram and Facebook are using Reels, is it like actually lowers the bar on the quality of the videos we have to put out, because people are just shooting stuff on their phone. They're doing it pretty, like some of them are pretty scripted and well put together, but people are also putting together pretty informal videos. So you can be going around capturing moments, little quotes, little things from your team, from your mentors, from your mentees, and collecting those and using them on social media, and not having to have, because we, like with AMP, we made some beautiful like videos that you can actually get on our YouTube channel and recycle and use as well for your promotion. Okay. But also you can create stuff like a little more easily and quickly. And that's kind of one of the trends, is that it's like a level of authenticity and quick and getting the word out. And you also asked if this video is going to be available later, and it will be on our YouTube channel, on our site. Well, there'll be a summary article. So like all of this stuff, we capture it and try to make sure, like Doug says, is like capture it, because then we can be creating that archive of all of this great information that is available later. And we can be recycling and using it and making sure people know that it exists, because there's a lot of stuff out there that we can share and that we've built up.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Again, I'm just doing a little check. It's 11:14. Again, we can keep this thing going this morning for a little while longer. If you're all okay, if there's any other questions or any other, I think, I love that fact that people are hanging about and wanting to talk a little bit more about mentorship, because we all love mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Doug, I just want to throw one more piece out for consideration as we're looking again. And I want to make the big divide between the urban and the rural centers. And, I spoke to a couple of CEOs who had this program. And one of the concepts we talked about is looking at taking on a regional approach, because again, when you take a look at some of the latest trends and some of the documents coming out from the federal government about immigration to rural settings, I think regionalizing a mentorship program in attracting more skilled and professional workers within a region may have a sort of impact that we haven't had before. Rather than having smaller communities try to stand alone with these programs, is how do we bring these programs that are closely within a region and create some sort of a regional approach. For example, I know that there's an organization in Medicine Hat, and they have the mentorship program. So they're teaming up with our staff in Brooks. So we just hired Rodas, and we said, okay, let's bring Brooks, let's bring the Medicine Hat folk, and we're going to bring our staff from Clarisholm to look at what does a regional mentorship in rural setting looks like. I had spoken to the CEO from EMGA, and I know she had a mentorship person at one time from Lethbridge. I think the fellow was living in Lethbridge, but is looking at how do we begin to service smaller centers like Lethbridge and south of Lethbridge or west of Lethbridge into more of a regional concept, because that's the approach I think that may have some merits.
As you talk that we had a whole session in our conference on the P2P and that wherein smaller centers in terms of attracting and retaining immigrants, because sometimes you do it alone, sometimes people come and they leave. But we're looking at what is the strategy that we can pull our resources together and see. Some small centers have succeeded in certain things, some have not, but how can we few leaps around a particular region can come together and do something and have so that we can have a strategy and share ideas and resources amongst ourselves. So I think when you are bringing that, it seems like these are the challenges small centers are having in all programs. And we're having these Ukrainians come in, and some of them are high skilled Ukrainians, and some are Afghanistans as well. Some are high skilled trained. But this, for me, I think this mentorship is timely for some of these things because we are getting quite a number coming to Lloydminster and the area. So, but I think I like the approach of, especially for the idea we talked about is for people who are starting LEAPs new LEAP coordinators, or there's been turnover, but somebody is nearby in a nearby town who's been there for some time. So coming together and working together helps that transfer of skills knowledge. So with the mentorship too, that I think would work like for us new into it. Maybe we could learn from somebody and collaborate with that regional approach in doing things.
I love this because, I mean, we started our mentorship program. Toronto was saying, hey, you guys, you should try and come up with a concept similar to ours. And we just kind of like, no, like we're different from Toronto. And this is the beauty of the mentorship concept. I mean, I think we need to meet the needs and the critical mass I think we're talking about in terms of how we can serve and serve better. I know, Ricardo, some of the things, like I know you're familiar with Northeastern Alberta. The strength there is not based on one small urban center. It's based on a regional sort of concept. And I think this would be beautiful if we can come up with a regional concept. I mean, it needs to be flexible. It needs to meet the needs. And I know, Kimo, we've talked about this too for Lloydminster. It's not just Lloydminster, but Lloydminster and beyond.
You have a million, you have all these smaller catchments that might benefit from it. But we're going to start with Lloydminster and then slowly go into those towns, right?
Yeah, the strategy could be like that. It could be concentric circles. Starting Lloydminster, then you start moving out, and it doesn't have to be static. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the same. There's a term that IRCC uses, which we have employed in our small centers south Calgary, which is the hub and spoke. So we have centers where we have physical offices, and then we serve a lot of the remote smaller communities from that particular setting. And all our programs, whether it be our LIP programs, we created as ZLIP, which is a zonal
zonal LIP,
right?
Yeah.
And Jennifer Kimo probably spoke about that, where we have the foothills and the Rocky View communities. And from that, now we have about 5 communities we have in a welcoming initiative with some provincial grants, our SLIP grants. So all the communities that we are serving, we have really created this regional concept that if we have this regional voice and we can bring some pooling of resources, but also for the attraction purposes, that now it's a little more seamless to create opportunities so that rural centers or smaller rural centers become better alternative choices when newcomers may wish to reside, because now that they know that these regional communities are within closer proximity and there may be greater accessibility, that they could find some of the resources they wouldn't find in one, but in another may provide that. So this has been our plan over the 5 years. I've been working through on this, regionalizing our rural services, south of Calgary, east and west. So it's coming together. And now with this mentorship program, is the same concept. So point 5 is in Brooks, that's Rhodes, and point 5 is Mark and Claresholm. And then Medicine Hat's got a different organization, but we are 3 collaborating as to how it could unfold.
It's like a big quilt, and each patch is going to be a little bit different in how we do it. And I love that we're not daunted by, there's no set pattern of how we do this. I mean, how Lethbridge does their program and how Lloydminster will do their program, and the way even listening to Sarah say, well, we'll be open. We don't have to just have mentors in Edmonton. We can look beyond. And I know for years, we talked about that. Why are we always just restricted to that? So things are changing. The technology has changed. And as Sarah said, as long as there's certain requirements that we look for in terms of understanding the local labor market and so on, you can't, it'd be great to have somebody from, let's say, I'm just going to use Barbados as an example, who may, be a great mentor, may not know what's going on in Alberta at this time, in terms of the local labor market. But the mentorship is a bit more fluid than a static template.
Ricardo is carry-on mentor me all the time in so many ways. So in different capacities, I have required some mentorship from him, and I think I have got it in various capacities that I have interacted with him. So,
but I think
I think it's a symbiotic relationship because I am still learning a lot of different things. I listened to Najib so eloquently spoke about the what's happening in Lethbridge, and I listened to you, Kimwan. My history with this is that I was in Lethbridge in 73, did my undergrad, and watching Lethbridge now, where my son graduated, and it's in 85 I got married in Lloyd, and when I listen to your stories about Lloydminster and where it is today, I'm going, gosh, I'm going to Lloyd in the early 80s, and of course I lived in Cold Lake. So I think it's exciting to watch the transformation that is happening in the rural context in Alberta. And I think this is what we shouldn't lose sight of, is that we are undergoing a transformation. And I'm going to say it again and again and again, is that too often people talk holistically about the benefits of immigration to the Canadian context and the economies, but the landings tended to be Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, and then the smaller centers were, thrown. Well, we got Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Red Deer, but the smaller rural centers, I think collectively we need to have this regional collective voice to say, hey, where are the benefits for us economically and sustainability and viability for the rural sector to have a real pronounced benefit from immigration to Canada? And we need to bring some of that expertise into the rural settings.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
That's my preaching for the morning, guys. I'm
so
pumped. See, I get so pumped by you guys.
Yeah, I'm leaving now, and then just a quick one before I leave. Even I'm doing what is called this for the first time this year, what's called wintegration. Introducing winter activities to immigration. But I'm actually kind of using the mentor now I'm thinking about it, because I'm asking local Canadians, Canadian born, to actually teach these people these winter sports and all the stuff. It's kind of a mentorship, but in a different field, like professional.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Look at the kinds of things we're being able to build between, especially I think what Ricardo was saying is how do we draw people to rural communities? If you've lived in rural communities, it's a quality of life. It's, these are great places. These are welcoming communities. How do we bring people to those communities? And I know it's a big ask from both the federal government and the provincial government to say, yeah, let's start getting immigrants to come to small communities. Well, how do we do that? We know those places are welcoming. It should be, and I know with Cheryl and I doing some research here, basically a scan of what's going on in rural communities, we're really surprised at the kind of work that's being done already in terms of building capacities in small communities, small centers. Communities are there, they're ready, And one of the questions we ask, is this part of your strategy? What are you doing in order to attract people, the brain trust, instead of having the brain trust leave your communities? What are you doing? Have you articulated this in your strategic planning, whether it's economic development or workforce planning? We need people to sort of, not just say, we need people, we're losing people. No, this has got to be an active economic and intentional strategy.
Right
and
on.
so, sorry?
You're right on with that, Doug, because I listened to what Sarah was saying and Najib, and one of the things that I think purposefully in the discourse that we use is how do we talk about mentorship? And one of the things we talked about is this is a rural mentorship for integration. And in fact, that when we talk about mentorship, we also are trying to subliminally and not so subliminally, very upfront, saying that we wanted to figure out that how could mentorship play a role in the integrating the newcomers within that community. Because, if you put a job together and satisfaction and meeting the needs of the client, clients are more willing to feel a sense of belonging within the community. So we really want to use that language that we look at our rural mentorship program as rural mentorship for integration. So the discourse that we use, and Ed was speaking about it, and the different modalities to get that out, I think is very critical how we use the discourse. And I listened to Sarah, I listened to Najib, you talk about being a salesperson, but how do we make that approach so that it is palpable for all parties involved?
Yeah, and that's
good.
I just want to shout out our environmental scan that we did in preparation for this phase, and it sort of brings together a lot of the research. And I think you should look at it, Ricardo, because it brings up like a lot of these themes around regional collaboration in rural Alberta and other areas, and how that's sort of a way to overcome some of the challenges in terms of mentors, in terms of not enough staff, in terms of creating resources. And so we, if you look at it, and I can send you the link if you want, but it's on our website under the stories. We wrote a little article about it, but it kind of brings together some of those themes and might help sort of instigate some ideas and conversations around those challenges, because the digital piece comes up, and a lot of the things you're bringing up, I'm like, you're totally in line with the conversations people are having, and this sort of brings it together, and it might be helpful to look at that.
One thing, and I'm gonna just maybe wrap this up a little bit. I want it to go on for more. Like, this is so great. I love talking to people who are interested in in this theme. Future topics. I know that we've got the converted here mostly sitting in this meeting, but there's it sounds like some really interesting topics that we could maybe, if you think about it, maybe please pass on to myself or to Cheryl some topics for the future, because we want to continue these kinds of dialogues. And the only way we can come up with innovations and nuanced approaches to mentorship is having these kinds of dialogues. Like I say, I don't see, when Ricardo, you mentioned challenges, I go, well, those are opportunities, like that. Like we don't have to be constricted by what we think is the only template. I think we have a chance in Alberta. This kind of initiative, I think, is very unique in Canada right now in terms of a mentorship initiative. It's still, new and burgeoning, but I mean, we have a chance to be, I think, a best practice provincially for the nation. And so, how we're proposing, regional approaches, urban approaches. Even urban approaches are different from between Calgary and Edmonton. So I love that it has that fluidity. So if there's any topics that you guys would like to talk in the future, I know, again, we've got the converted here, but it'd be great to give us some planning sense for the coming year.
Well, thanks all. And, one of the things, Najib, maybe we should look at considering, and we start small and we carve up the province region by region, but love to have a Southern Alberta mentorship, much like a career fair, where it's all about inviting potential folks who want to be mentors, folks who want to be mentees, and they attend a symposium, a forum of some sort, like a career fair, and then we really host something like that. So all the folks who've got mentorship programs, they come together and talk about their programs, or they display. but more importantly, it become a symposium or a space where potential mentors want to hear about it, how they could be supported, the benefits of this kind of programming for their industry, the building of knowledge capacity. And one of the things we don't give a lot of credence to is what I call diversity of thought. Diversity of thinking is critical in many workforces because there are many ways in which we haven't considered approaches to looking at complex issues. We could come at it from what are certain countries doing differently in certain industrial fields. And I think creating a symposium with this type of potential could probably raise some awareness about mentorship in general, what we're doing in Alberta, and then looking at opportunities throughout the different regions. So there's my food for thought. And there we go.
Ricardo, as soon as you mentioned a great point that collaboration in doing a regional work. The first thing that I started the whole discussion is we're open to any type of discussions from any community. Honestly, when we first launched the program, or we were thinking about launching the program, we knew that it's not going to be an easy task. And the first thing we did is, how do we reach out to those who are already successful? And how are they doing it? What do we learn from them? We don't have to make the same mistakes. And so we have 6 different components of the program. And believe it or not, we've adopted each one from East Coast all the way to West Coast. We have partnership with Nova Scotia for one of our activities and program. We are working with Doug, we're working with Bruce, we're working with IECBC. We have tapped into any resources that we can find out. And not only tap into resources, actually that work that you talked about to have, if there is an appetite to a regional potential partnership, is that's already actually been started. We initiated that, and we work really closely with Direction for Immigrants in Calgary. We work with Breeden, and we work with IACBC. I know we are restricted geographically to serve different clients, but sharing resources, sharing our thoughts, that diversity of thoughts, in some of the areas that we can share our resources and tap into each other's resources is these information sessions that are happening. And the other part is that the preparation and accreditation for international trained professionals. That is not something that we serve. We actually do it together. And that support is already there. So our doors are open. We're just waiting for a knock, or if they say, if the mountain doesn't come to you, I will go to mountains. We will just reach out to everyone else.
Well, you guys are closer to the mountains than we are.
I mean, yeah, we are. I know when we started, Bruce and I had several conversations before he retired, and our proposal was a partnership, believe it or not, with ERIEC, and we are looking at still ways in which we would, dovetail from some of their expertise. So I think that potential is always there. I sometimes I just think is sometimes, like you said, the mountain and going to the mountain, but sometimes we got to try to move some mountains. So we'll be in touch. Folks,
Absolutely.
Take care. Thanks a lot.
Have a great weekend, everyone. And Annette and Cheryl, thank you for getting everything set up for us today. And Najib and Sarah, awesome presentations. Thank you so much. Ricardo, thanks for coming. And Hannah, thank you for coming as well. I didn't see your face, but I see your name. Thanks for participating. And guys, have a great weekend.
Great weekend. Bye now.
Thank you.